we're finally getting that drip irrigation installed for this season. Hi everyone, welcome to Kim's Cozy Corner. I went out of town for a family funeral and I just got back, and guess what, y'all? My garden's under the ground again. And since the garden's underwater, I figured this is a good day to work on water. So come with me as I work on reinstalling all of my drip irrigation throughout my entire garden. I already had drip irrigation in most of my beds here, like all of the previous beds, like these and these over here, all had drip irrigation already in them. I did not disturb those beds at all, but all of these Vego garden beds over here are all new this year, and I need to reinstall all of this drip irrigation into the new design of the beds out here. And I have to figure out the best way to run those lines. This bed here, I think we're okay. And the beds back here, I think the lines have been removed. I need to get those reestablished. And all of the beds way over there, I got to get drip irrigation in those as well. So we got a busy day of just working on drip irrigation. To install my drip irrigation, I got a whole video out there that I show how I did it last year. I'm going to make a new video so you don't have to go find that video on this process. The only difference is I'm going to be trying to reuse as much of the material as I can versus starting with new material. Let me show you the different materials I will be working with as I am setting up drip irrigation for this year. This right here is my 1/2 inch line. There are no holes in this line right here. It's a 1/2 inch wide in this one here. I call it my supply line. And I will be tying into that supply line in many different ways. One way is through poking a hole right here into the supply line and pulling water out into this brown hose right here, which is a 1/4 inch drip emitter line, and it will drip, I think, 1 gallon an hour of water in each one of these little emitters here. So that's one way of doing it. And I've purchased a 1/4 inch line here that has no drip emitters in it, so it's like a supply line just like the 1/2 inch. And I have lots and lots of the drip emitter lines. The drip emitter lines can come like every 6 inches, every 8 inches, every 12 inches. And you just have to look at your packaging to figure out what you got. And so I have Rainbird. And I have a 1/4 inch emitting tubing that's 6 inches apart. So every 6 inches, I am going to have a little place that will give me 1 gallon of water, I think it is. Okay, here it is. 0.8 gallons per hour is what that one says. And I got several, so let's see what this other one says. That's 0.8. So roughly 1 gallon an hour at each one of those little spots. And I will put that drip emitter throughout my garden space and have it dripping all over so it can make sure it hit each of the plants. Typically, you know, if you're very organized, you could do it such that you have one plant at every one of the little spots on the drip emitter. I'm not that organized, y'all. I'm not even gonna pretend like I am. I will be putting a link to all of my materials in the description box below. I'm not an affiliate with anyone, and there's many different ways to set up your drip. This is just how I'm going to do it today. So I showed you where you tie into the main line and how you connect the tubing that has no holes in it into the tubing that has drip in it. You use these little connectors like that. And there are many different types of connectors. This is one of the brands right here that I've used quite often. It comes with a lot of different pieces in here. Everything from tees to individual plugs to 90-degree angles. I mean, it comes with a hole puncher. Some of them do. Here's another container that I've used before. This one has 281 pieces. Again, all the links will be below to all of these different things. And this right here is a little tool that you can use to puncture your half-inch line, or your supply line, I should say, or these little bitty ones. But there's your hole puncher right there to help make it easy for you. Now let's talk about the supply line itself, right? I got to be able to hook supply line to supply line throughout my garden. So let me show you the different processes and steps that I use for that. My supply line comes in right here. And then I have a little connector T hooking up the supply line to take it in a different direction and to continue in this direction. And here again, I have another T so I can come down this line, and then another one to keep it going all the way down to the end of the garden. As it's coming down this route here, and you'll see it'll go all the way down to that other bed down there. And then I tie into it and I come up to supply this bed right here. So these are half-inch little connectors. And I'm gonna be honest with you, y'all, these are hard to put on. Here's a handful of some straight tees as well, I should say straight connectors, like a coupler right here that just put two straight pieces together. This is a T, which is what you see right here. And you want this to be very warm so you can really force it on here. And these don't leak. If you put them all the way on the way you're supposed to, they will not leak. So you're going to push them on all the way up to this little notch right here. And I promise you, they don't leak. It's just very difficult to use this style. So I've changed to this style right here, and I'll have links to everything below. In this style right here, it makes it a lot easier. I don't have to really force onto that right there, when this right here will do the exact same thing. So this right here replaces that little brown part right there, and it makes it easier to get it in and on. So we talked about all the different areas and how we're going to connect all the lines together and how it's all going to flow and the different tools, but I still have to connect to my water line, to the faucet where the water's coming out, or the spigot, depending on where you're from. And so I run a garden hose from the spigot over to beside my garage right here. So it runs over to this area right here. I'm all in my shade, and my shadow's all in the picture. And this is where we're going to tie in with the garden hose. The garden hose will just screw right into this piece right here. And this is where we will start the process right here. Again, this is just one of many different ways to hook it all together. So let me start laying it out and figuring out how we're going to put this together today. Y'all, this is my new tool right here. I'm going to use this tool right here to cut all of my tubing. So on the end here, I don't want to cut myself, I'm trying to show you. I can cut 1/2-inch tubing, and I can cut 1/4-inch tubing with this tool versus having to use a pair of sharp shears or scissors to cut. So we'll be using this tool. And this is one of the first places I'm going to start, because this line right here runs in the middle of the open bed now, because I took this whole row out. There used to be beds through here. I took that whole row out. That I still have this drip irrigation running through here, and I need to remove it. And to remove this, I need to cut it out. So where are we going to cut first is the question. I think we will start right here, because this whole line has to come out anyway. So let's start right here. And so I'm going to cut this away, because I no longer need to go that way with this line. So I'm going to cut here, and then I'm going to reconnect these two pieces. And I am going to cut fairly close. Hopefully this works, y'all. Woo! Oh, that was so easy. Oh, y'all, I got a new fun tool, because that was super easy. And I need to cut this in as well. Y'all, I didn't use no force for that. That was easy. Now I need to put these two pieces together. I need to make these fit together. So let me show you that. All I got in here are 90s and T's. I need a straight. Here's a straight piece. And these are just a little different. I am going to unscrew the ends, put the holes on, and then tighten the ends back down. So I took the ends off of this little piece and I stuck one here and I stuck one there. And now I'm going to hook this into both sides. So I hooked the ends into both sides. I pushed it all the way up till it wouldn't go any farther. Now I'm going to slide this piece down and I'm going to tighten it. So now this piece is out and now this line is going straight. I'm going to do that in a few more spots and I'm going to show you my work, but I'm going to get this side done and I'll bring you back. Okay, it's the next day. I have all of the water lines in for the drip irrigation and I want to kind of show you how I move some things around to make it more effective, I should say. Right here is where I had a T. Making it go that way, I took that T out. So here, going that way, I removed that line. So there's nothing coming through here causing any trip hazards anymore. I added a shutoff valve for the individual beds, which that wasn't there before. And I had multiple places where I was tying into the main line. Now I have one place tying into the main line for each of the beds. I am a bit in the shade, but I want to be able to show you this. So this is where I tie into the main line right here. We tie in. Here's my shutoff valve where I can have water coming to and from this bed right here. And then I have a 90-degree T. And then I go over into the bed, and this is where I have my drip emitter. And that's the brown line going through the bed. So I'm going to bring you in close. And I just wrapped the current drip emitter that was in this space here from the wooden bed from last year. I put it around the different vegetables that I have in the bed. The best way to do drip emitter is to put it in before your plants get too big, but I'm doing this after the fact, so I'm going to show you how I made that emitter go around the vegetables that I have in the bed. The brown line comes through and just goes back and forth throughout this bed, making sure that there is going to be water to each and every one of the vegetables that are in there. Here's another really good example right here of where I came into this bed here. Here's my shutoff valve for this one coming up and over. So remember, there's no holes in the main supply line. Got a 90 coming up. I put in a shutoff valve. I put in a 90-degree here to take me to the bed. And then now that I'm in the bed, I tied into the line that's in the bed with the drip emitter, which is this little brown hose here. I buy the drip emitter with the holes being about 6 inches apart. That way I don't have to worry about it hitting the plant or not hitting the plant, because all of my plants are spaced no more than 12 inches apart. Most are closer than that. So I know that there's going to be plenty of water dripping right where it's needed for the plant. In this space right here, I brought a line that I've been running behind here. I brought that line up, making sure that it's not running down the main walkway, so it's not a trip hazard. And I tied in for this bed here. Now it has a shutoff, but it's back here. The shutoff for that one is way back there. And I tied in with the 90 right there because I will always have some kind of pots going in this space here. And yes, you can run drip irrigation to your pots and grow bags. For the pots and the grow bags, even though I ran the 90 in, I did another 90 coming right here. And this is where the shutoff valve is for these 3 pots that I have linked together. And so I got a shutoff valve, and then I got an individual line running into each of the 3 pots in this space here. I also left additional supply line on here just in case I need to make some adjustments to this space. But I have water going to every container in this space here, so I don't have to worry about hand watering, not even these fabric grow bags. And the reason I put a shutoff valve there, because if I don't want to water the grow bags, I can turn it off, and then I still can water the whole garden and not worry about overwatering the grow bags in this space here. Now back here is where I spent most of my time working, because this is a completely new setup. Where over in the main garden area, I already had beds there. I just kind of rearranged them, took the wood out, put metal raised beds in, and I was able to use the same drip emitters and everything I already had running through that space. But this is a complete redesign, so I had to think about this area very differently. And so up until this bed here, everything is pretty much the same. But once we get to this bed here, it's completely different. So as I ran the main supply line into each of these beds, I made sure I had shut-off valves for each and every one of them. And then I had to run new drip lines into each of the beds. And these beds, I believe, are about 2 feet wide, I believe. But I have 3 rows of line running the length of both of these beds here, making sure that every plant's going to get watered. Again, I did a 90 up here at the top as I moved into the beds to make it super easy to get to it without it like leaning all over the place. This may be difficult to see, but when I first started doing my own drip irrigation, I used to punch a hole in the main supply line and then run a solid tube into the bed before you get to the drip system. Now that I've been doing this for quite a few years, I prefer not to do this, because if I have a leak in the main supply line, I got to cut it out. I got to get new parts and pieces. So I don't use this style anymore. Instead, I have all of the 90s going up and over. So if I got a drip where I plugged in, I'm over the bed. So at least the water's going to the vegetables that I have in the bed. But as long as this is working, I'm not going to change it out. But if I ever have a leak in this space, then I'll change it out to the new style that you see in the metal raised beds. Also, these are those old tees that I used to use as very difficult. And so as I was putting these beds together, I used the new tees that kind of uses compression to ensure that you have a nice tight seal. Y'all, I was able to get through it so fast. My hands weren't sore. I love that style versus this style here, and I'll make sure you get the link if you're trying to do it. It's super fast, super quick, and you don't have to sit out here trying to heat up your pipes and your lines, trying to make them pliable enough so you can put them together. So I showed you the other 2 beds. When we get to this 3rd bed, I had to send a supply line that way, because over in my new orchard area, I will be adding a bed. So I wanted to make sure that I had a line going out that way as I'm preparing for that. And then we come on around this 3rd bed here to get to everything around the she shed behind me. Just like with the other areas, I got my shutoff valve there, and I wind the drip emitter back and forth through this bed here, which, by the way, we cleaned up, and then I added some onion and I added some eggplant over on that side. I cleaned up the flowers, and it's looking really good over here. So that was part of the work that I did yesterday as well. And then I ran the emitter throughout that space there, which is another area we cleaned up as well. So there is drip running across all of that. And yep, I tell you, I'll find a place for some more tomatoes. I got the sun to my back, but hopefully you can see me. And so I had 2 huge hostas in here. We pulled those out and relocated them so I could put some smaller flowers in the front here. And yep, I did. I took the back and I added in 4 more tomato plants. I will find a place for all tomato plants. And I made sure that there's drip going to this area here, so there'll be no need to hand water this space. And this is the last area here. And I'm all the way into the orchard area now. And even though this bed is not set up yet, and I do have all of my potting soil and everything to set this bed up, I went ahead and set up the drip to this space as well. And I didn't tack it all the way down because I need to bring the soil back up in this bed. But it has a shutoff valve as well. I'm using the new format for the elbows and the T's and everything, but this one's set up and ready to go as well. Now, one of the things I didn't talk about, but at the end of every one of your lines, you have to close it off in some way. And there's a new style to do that as well that's super easy that I used on here versus putting a kink in it, but both ways, both methods work. But at least we have this one set up and it's ready to go. And so I am done with drip, except for plugging in the one new bed that I'll be adding in the next couple of days, and I'll definitely bring you with me. So that's me getting my drip irrigation set up for the year. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing, liking, sharing, all of those good things that comes along with letting me know that you are enjoying the content that I'm providing for you. Until next time, and I hope there will be a next time that you hang out with me at Kim's Cozy Corner. Bye.